you've been thinking about taking up sewing or dressmaking or quilting, you'll be wanting a new machine. And if you've been wanting a machine, you may have considered the Brother Innovis A80 and wondering whether this is a good machine for you to get started with. Well, I've got you covered in this video. We're talking about what you get with the machine and giving a little demonstration of the buttons, and I'll give my honest review towards the end about who I think this machine is good for and who it's not so good for. So who am I? I am Kim. This is Quilt with Kim. You, my lovely, are very, very welcome. Let's start with what you get with the machine. So we've got a variety of feet. You've got your standard foot that you'd expect with all machines. You've got an open toe foot here for your wider stitches, like your decorative stitches. You've got your zipper foot, so you can put in zips nice and easily. Then we have got your blind hem foot here. So if you want to take up trousers, things like that, that puts a stitch on the inside and a teeny little stitch on the outside, so that's blind hemming. And then you've got an overcast foot there, which is fab for if you don't have an overlocker, for sealing edges. You can of course use a zigzag stitch, but you do have an overcast stitch there as well. So those are your main feet. You've also got a foot to put on a button. To be honest with you, I have never used a foot to put on a button. I've used the buttonhole foot to make the buttonhole plenty of times, but I sew my buttons on by hand. However, if you're of the mind that you want to try your machine to put on buttons, you have the foot there. So there's your main feet. You also have your extra spool if you want to do twin needle stitching with either a straight stitch or decorative stitches, and you have a twin needle that goes in there as well. So you've got those in there. What you've also got are 3 spool sizes. They're really important to use the right size spool cap for the size of the spool that you are using. I've got another video on that which I'll link up at the end. You will have 4 bobbins included. I don't know if you can see those, but you've got 4 bobbins included. One of those will be in your machine, actually in the bobbin holder in the casing when you get your machine. I'll show you that in a moment. So you've got those. You will need more bobbins, but you've got some to get you started. You've got a variety of screwdrivers. So you've got this little one that you can use any edge as a little screwdriver, and you've got a thin one there, a thick one there. You've also got a punch, like a leather punch. If you need to punch through really thick fabric or through leather, you've got one of those. And of course we have your little cleaner brush, which you'll be using a lot, so that's included. The other couple of things is all the decorative stitches are on the front of your machine. I'll show you that in 1 second, but you also get a little pattern guide that can sit on top of your machine if you need that, and that just tells you what number to put your machine on to get whichever stitch, and I will show you that in a second. So that's a handy thing to have. You do of course have a full manual which is here, and that's full of everything that you might need to know. With Brother you also get a little booklet to make something with your machine, and of course there's all the including accessories, quick start guide, guarantees, and all the kind of things. What I would suggest when you get your machine is to keep the box, because all Brother machines, in fact I suspect all machines, but all Brother machines come with a 3-year guarantee or warranty, and if you need to send it back to the manufacturer, you'll need to send it back in the box that it came in and all the packaging. So just put that in the loft somewhere, don't get rid of that. And then the other thing, you can register your machine with them, so you'll find a little leaflet in there that you can send off to Brother to register the machine, so it knows when you bought your machine and that it belongs to you. So that's all the stuff that comes in with your machine. So let's have a look at the machine itself and see what that does. So looking at the machine itself, what we can see here on the main panel of where we adjust our stitches is we've got all of our stitch patterns. So all we would do is choose the pattern that we want by choosing one of these numbers. I'm not sure if I can get in any closer. Let me just see if I can move that into there. I'm not sure it will focus, but we can see here we've got little numbers just above each of the stitches, and then what we do is adjust this wheel to whatever stitch number we want. So let's just say we want number 11 here, which is a zigzag stitch. I'm looking at this without my glasses on. That looks like a zigzag or blind hem stitch without my glasses. And if you look here, you can see as we turn it on, it is set automatically to number 1. But as I adjust this wheel, I can go through the stitches, and when I have gone to number 11 in this particular case, you can see that it says, okay, well, you need foot G, which is actually, that's the overcast foot. So I can see that easier than I can see the stitch. So that's the overcast foot. So you remember that overlocking I was saying. So we're doing our overlocking with stitch 11, and it'll set your stitch length automatically to number 2 and your stitch width automatically to number 3. All right, so this particular dial here, you can just scroll through any of these patterns you like, and it will tell you what foot you need to go on, and it will set it to the stitch width and the stitch length that you need. So let me put that back to number 1 for a moment, and you can move this dial either way as well. So with your stitch length and stitch width, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit to show you. Can you see over on the right here, we've got some little buttons, and this is really easy. The top one with a little dashed line is your stitch length. So this is currently set on a 2.5mm stitch length, and your stitch width is 0 because number 1 is a straight stitch. So obviously I don't want a stitch width on this particular one. But if I wanted to adjust any of these, I can just simply push these buttons. You'll see there's a minus and a plus on these buttons, and I can push them up or down to adjust my stitch length, and again on my stitch width. Okay, so that's nice and easy to do. So let's put that back to 0, put that back to 2.5. Then with that twin needle, you can see right now we've got a single needle on the screen there. If I wanted to do twin needle, I would just press this button over here where it has got 2 little needle sign. As I change that, can you see this LCD, this display on the, sorry, this little symbol on the LCD display, if I can get my words out, that changes as well. So if you just watch that as I press the buttons, I pressed it back to single and to double. So this little button here is an automatic lock stitch, and you can see if I press it, there's a little symbol comes on the LCD display there. Let me press it off, and you can see that goes off. As I press it, it goes on. So if you want a lock stitch at the beginning and the end of your stitch line, press that before you do anything else, and then when you put your presser foot down and start stitching, it will go into an automatic lock stitch for you. So very, very handy to have. Okay, let's have a look at the rest of the machine. So over here, let's just zoom out so that you can see a little bit clearer. We've got a speed function over here, so we can slide that depending on how fast that you want to go. So obviously that is very slow and that is a lot faster. So that's there for you. This button here with the black mark rubbed off. Now I have to just interject here. This is my student Sheila's machine that I've borrowed while she's on holiday, so I can demonstrate this to you, or to show this machine to you, because she got this when she started quilting with me. She had another machine before which was quite basic, and then she moved to this one, and it's doing her very proudly. But she obviously uses this button a lot. What you get is a little symbol with a little needle with a line through it, and that pushes your needle up and down. So if I press it, my needle will go down. As I press it again, my needle will go up. If you look over here to the left, needle down, needle up. All right, so that's your needle up down function, which is really, really useful. This little circle here it makes the machine stitch on the spot. It just does literally one stitch. I won't do that with no fabric underneath. But if I wanted to just lock with a single stitch on the spot, that's what that does. So every time you press, it does one stitch. That is your reverse stitch. So it's not an automatic one like that button over on the other side. But if you wanted to manually go back a few stitches, that's what that button does. And that button there is your start stop button if you're not using your foot pedal. If you prefer to use just hands and the machine to sew without a foot pedal, you can use that. I prefer not to. I much prefer using a foot pedal because I got all the control, but I know that there are definitely some sewers out there who prefer just using the start stop button on the machine. That is there for you. So that's the main panel of the machine. Whilst we're up at this angle, if I just angle that up slightly, you remember I was saying there's that little pattern guide there that can just fit onto the handle at the back of the machine there. Now, if I look on the top of the machine whilst we're up here, so we've got our bobbin winder just there. We've got our little hole here to put our second spool holder in if you're doing twin stitching. Where did that go? So that just pops in there like that, and your second thread spool would go on that, and it would obviously thread in exactly the same way. I do have a video on how to use twin needles and how to thread the machine for a twin needle if you want to watch that. Then over here we've got a little set of instructions of where to place your thread. If you were loading the bobbins, you just follow 1, 2, 3. Make sure it is underneath this little gear here if you are loading your bobbin, and then it tells you the thread has to go back this way for your bobbin loading. And then if you're threading your machine, then it goes off down here as per normal. Again, I have got instructions on my channel of how to thread machines, how to wind bobbins, because they're all pretty much the same. So this little dial here is your tension disc, and you can see to the right there's a little line and to the left there's a little line. That tells me that number 4 is your default number for your tension. You do not need to adjust your tension disc ordinarily. It's very rare that you need to adjust that. When you get to the stage of needing to adjust that, you tend to know why you're doing it, so you can generally leave that alone. Okay, let's have a look at another little thing which you're going to love about this machine. So let me just re-angle my camera. So down here we can see that we've got an automatic one-click really threader for your machine. It is really useful. There's none of this shenanigans of trying to bring something down and hold the thread across. There's nothing like that at all. So when you thread your machine, so this is part threaded, we can see here there's my thread and it's gone behind the needle bar as normal, and all I'm going to do is pop it through that little gap in here of your threader, and where it says number 7, I'm getting it locked into there. And over on the side of the machine there is a button, and I'm going to push that down. So I'm going to show you here. Simply put that down, and then what happens is your thread goes through the needle eye. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to pause for 1 second. I'm going to put a really bright coloured thread in here, and you'll be able to see that a bit easier. That's a bit better, isn't it? I can see that now. So the thread is behind that needle bar at the top of the needle. We can just see here just above my nail there, and then we pop it through that little gap that's over here on the threader, put it through number 7 and make sure it is caught. Just gently tug it back a little bit, and if you watch the needle as I push that lever down on the left hand side, you'll see straight away that the needle has thread, and you can see that little loop there. All I'm going to do is pull gently on that loop and the thread will come through the needle. So that is your needle threaded. This is a really amazing little thing that Brother have. They've got 2 levels of this one-click threader. On the lower spec machines, they've got this one, which is still amazing. And then on the higher spec machines, they've got just a slightly different, more clicky version of it, but it does exactly the same thing. So this is really good. This is a really lovely little machine to have your automatic lock stitch and your automatic threader, which you will love. It's not like other automatic threaders where you have to, as I said, line up the thread and hold it taut with one hand and put it over through a little channel with your other hand, and with your third hand you have to get it in, but it is nothing like that at all. This is really easy to do. So that's your needle threaded, and whilst we're on the subject, this is a top loading bobbin. So what does that mean? If this is your first machine, this is really easy. So with the top loading bobbin, all we need to do is take off our little lid on the top here. We're going to get our bobbin. Always make sure that your thread is coming from the back to the left. That's a bit of a rule with all bobbins. You pop that in, and with that thread we're going to wind it around this little banana shape here, and then round that little point and come back on yourself, and you can just follow this channel around. And there's a little cutter just in here, and then you put your lid back on, and that is your bobbin done. And you're going, oh my God, that's so easy. And yes, it is. So if you've had experience of bobbins where you've got to go in the side loading and you've got to take the bit off on the side and you've got to take the cartridge out and you never know quite how it's working, this is really, really easy. Okay, so down here, if you're into dressmaking or you're doing circular things, this little section here comes off, so you can put your tools in there. Not that I can do it with one hand. This allows you to put any circular items that you're sewing, and you can feed it round this sleeve section here. It doesn't need to be a sleeve, but perhaps the top of a bag that you're top stitching or something like that. That fits around there nice and easily. And then all this does is clip back on there. And if we open this up, we can see in here, we've got room to put all your little feet and your spool caps and spare sweets and things like that. So they all go in there. On the bed here, you've got little instructions about how to thread your machine, which are handy, but you may find that following a video is more helpful to you. And then over on the left here, you can see that there's a little section that tells you how to load the bobbin in case you ever forget. And as you can see here, it says from the back to the left, do not come from the right and to the front. So that tells you how to do that. How does it sew? Let's have a look at this one. So with sewing, now even though this is my student's machine, I actually haven't used this before, so let's see how this goes. I'm going to put my needle down. I've actually got that lock stitch, that automatic lock stitch still clicked on, so let's just see what happens. Let's put the speed down to medium. Okay, so you can see there it's always gone forwards, backwards, forwards for that automatic lock stitch. Sounds like it needs a bit of a clean, Sheila. Shall I clean this machine for Sheila afterwards? Okay, so we've done a little stitch line, and then when I finish, I'm going to press that button just there, and it will automatically lock stitch because I've got that little other button pressed on. That's, hang on, let's move the camera, because I've got this button pressed on, that one. As I press that, watch the needle, and I have got my foot off the pedal. You'll have to trust my word on that. And look, mum, no hands. Okay, so that's done its automatic lock stitch at the end. And it's a really useful thing to do. Now, a little tip on that, just so you know, if I look over here on the panel, you'll see some of these stitches have a little tram line, like a double stitch at the top. I can't quite zoom in, but if you look, you'll see there's a little tram line at the top of each stitch, and some of them have a little dot. So that means that when you are doing that automatic lock stitch, if it has got a little double stitch or a tram line at the top, just underneath the number, that means it'll do that forwards, back, forwards lock stitch. If it has got a dot, it will do it on the spot. And then to finish off, we'd put our needle up, we'd lift up, press a foot, we'd take our stitching out, and then just on the side, let me move my camera around so that you can see. Can you see here is a little cutter, so if I put my thread over there, it'll cut that. So lighting. Now, Sheila does struggle with the lighting, but Sheila struggles with her eyes. I know she won't mind me saying that. It's something to have a think about, that if you do struggle with your eyesight, then maybe it isn't the greatest lighting. However, Sheila has a solution. She is ingenious for this one. So let's talk about what it has got. So it's got a good bright light over the needle. That's what we need, but it doesn't have any other lighting in the throat area. If you're sewing in the daytime, this won't cause you any problem at all. You will have enough light to see. But if you're sewing in the evening, then you might struggle a bit because it is not the brightest. However, my ingenious student Sheila came up with a really good solution, and she bought one of those little strips of lighting that you get, the tiny little bulbs, and she's just stuck it on the back of her machine here, and then she just plugs that in when she wants to sew in the evening, and that gives her plenty of lighting. You can of course get craft lights which will add extra lighting and so on, so I don't think it's a deal breaker, because you can mitigate it by getting extra lighting, either standalone or sticking onto the inside of your machine. That's up to you. If you're only going to sew in the daytime, it won't cause you any problems at all. The last thing that we have to think about is the throat space, and that's this bit here. It depends what you're doing. This is quite a small throat space. I have got a ruler. We are going to measure it. Let's just measure that. It's about 5 inches. You can see here to 5 inches. You probably can't see that at all. In fact, it is 5 inches. Take my word for that. It's 5 inches in this space here, which is not the biggest throat space. If you are dressmaking, if you are making cushions or small items, this won't ever cause you a problem at all. Just go for it. If this is your first machine, it'll be perfect for you. It'll be absolutely fine. If you are learning to quilt, then it depends on the project you're making. When you're a beginner at learning to quilt, I would recommend that you never start with a big quilt anyway. You start with small projects, in which case this will be perfectly fine for you to learn on it, and you have enough space there to do little projects, to do a table runner. I know Sheila's done a table runner through here, and she's currently on my sampler quilting class, and of course sampler quilts are blocks that are about 18 inches, and they are absolutely fine. But if you wanted to go on to make big bed quilts, you're never going to fit that in there without a great deal of frustration. It would just be too much to do that. Okay, so you can buy extension tables like this one, which sit on the side of your machine. Let me show you how that works. So if you wanted this to use the extension table, these are quite useful. So on the bottom, you've got these feet, which you literally just click up. You've got 4 of those. Let's do the other 4. And what we do is we take the section off that you've put your tools in, and then that literally just slides on the side there, and then you've got extra bed here that you can take the weight of any project that you're working on. But that doesn't help with the lack of throat space here. If you want to do dressmaking or make small projects for the home, or you're starting out to learn quilting, then this is the machine for you. It's a nice machine to get started with. But if you've got to the advanced quilting stage and you're getting into the bigger quilts, this definitely isn't the machine for you. You will need a bigger machine with a bigger throat space. I do hope that has helped. If it has, please don't forget to like, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Every week I put out tips, tutorials and troubleshooting videos to help you every stage of your sewing journey. But for now, I will love you and leave you, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.